Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline to offer us his very insightful and educated opinion is Blaine Fowler, BYUtv dual threat analyst, a guy who covers college football and college basketball, so he is perfect for this Twitter question. All right, Blaine, let's answer the question. What's more likely to happen in 2016? BYU basketball finds a way to win their first WCC title, or BYU football with a new coach but tons of talent finish the season ranked?
So here's the clarifying question I have for you guys. Are we talking about a regular season basketball title or that they're going to win the tournament?
Either one. Because
I think they have a really good shot to win the tournament down there. But
Blaine!
So I really do think they have a shot to do that. But to win the regular season title, I mean, the Zags are 6-1 with their only loss, aren't they? I'm not looking at that, but off the top of my head, if I remember right, they're 6-1 already in league, right?
BYU 4-2, Gonzaga 6-1.
Right. And they've got to come down here still. I'm not as confident that they win the regular season title. I think they could tie for the regular season title. I think that's more likely, the basketball team. But I really think by the time you get to the tournament in March, these young players are going to be playing better. It's neutral court for everybody. And I like BYU's chances this year of winning the tournament down there, just because I don't think Gonzaga is as good on the guard line as they've been in recent years. And I think BYU is going to be a little more seasoned on the guard line. And those young guys, those two freshmen, are going to play better in the tournament than they've been playing early on the road. So I think they'll do it. But here's the thing. Can I take both? Because
no.
So I'm going to say basketball right now, because I think for BYU in football, when you look at that daunting schedule, that I've gone through it over and over and over again in my mind as I've looked at that schedule. I'm feeling like if BYU in football can be in 4-4 in their first 8 games, that Kalani and the gang has been doing a phenomenal job. And so then to climb back from that, you might be able to be, if you play well down the stretch, if you're 8-4, you could be ranked with that schedule at 8-4. I think with 9 wins, Jeremy, you said, I don't know. I think with 9 wins, you are ranked with that schedule. I guess it's depending on who you lose against, but because I think they'll finish strong. Because on the back end of it, they've got Cincinnati and Southern Utah, UMass and Utah State. I think they'll win out, and I think they can beat Boise State. So even at 8, they have a chance to be ranked. At 9, they're ranked, but I think 9-3 in the regular season next year is ridiculously good. With a new offense, a new defense, and with that schedule the way it is early. So I'm going to say basketball is going to either win a regular season championship, which in my book counts based on what you just told me.
That's what Jimmer Fredette did his senior year.
Yeah, I think they're going to do one of the two. I think they're either going to win a co-championship in the regular season or win the tournament this year, because they'll be more experienced by then. And so they're going to do that. I'm giving the basketball team that. The football team, I kind of wait and see what happens in those first 4 games. So I'm going basketball.
Yeah, you've already taken down the top team in the conference on the road, so I think BYU is certainly capable of anything. You lose at Portland, you're capable of that. You win at Gonzaga, you're capable of that. So we'll see what this BYU team does. Now you have LMU and Pepperdine this week. LMU is a place where BYU has lost before, but Pepperdine seems to be maybe a bigger challenge for BYU because St. Mary's already went there and lost, Blaine.
Yeah, Pepperdine's more of a veteran team. LMU, if BYU doesn't win there, I'd be really disappointed, because Mike Dunlap, he's got 9 new guys on that team, and they're taking good care of the ball. They have a pretty decent inside game, but they're just not great defensively, and they're not shooting it, and it seems like they're still trying to find themselves. They're kind of a 50-50 team right now. BYU should win that game. Now, Pepperdine, that's a little scarier, right, because they're more veteran and names that people know. So Stacey Davis, who's been a solid player inside, is 6'8", and Jet Raines. If you're named Jet, you really need to be explosive, right? And
Spencer named his kid Jet.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Jet Raines Linton.
They're not so Stacey and Jet. So Davis and Raines, they're not just long at 6'8" and 6'7", but they're physical guys. They're like 235, 225. So they're really good inside. They're really balanced. They got Lamont Murray on the outside. Major is the distributor. I just like the balance of Pepperdine. I think it's a really solid basketball team, and I like Marty Wilson as a coach. They shoot it well. They score well. So they're balanced. I mean, everything about this team, they're a solid basketball team. And BYU on the road right now, is not scoring at the rate they are at home. They seem to struggle on the road. So that's the one that makes me nervous, the Pepperdine one. Should they win it? Certainly they should. From a talent perspective, they match up just fine, and they should be fine. But if I'm going to pick out one of the two games that's the scary one for me, it's definitely Pepperdine.
Follow him at BFowler16, dual threat analyst for BYUtv, college basketball and college football. Blaine Fowler with us as we discuss this. Okay, Blaine, let's just say it. I mean, the ebbs and flows of what happens in college basketball were in full effect last week. Unpredictable. BYU wins at Gonzaga. Their best win of the season. They're riding high. And then less than 48 hours later, they lose their worst game of the season at Portland. So, with that in mind, what type of BYU team do you expect to hit the road in Southern California this week?
It's so hard, Spencer. I was actually really worried about that game after the Zags win because BYU won in a way that they haven't won all year, maybe even not last year, where they just kind of ground it out, and it was a defensive gem, and they win by one in the games in the 60s. I was like, wow, that's how you win on the road, right? Because you don't always shoot well on the road. So I was nervous that with all the energy that was extended to that they would, lose the next one against an opponent they should be able to give them problems, although they have given them problems historically the last couple of years. So going on the road, it was interesting. We were doing the San Francisco game and talking to Rex Walters, and he made a comment that Dave and I kind of looked at each other and went, oh, that's a cool way to put it. He says, defense travels and offense does not. So, you can always – defense is about effort. It's about being able to move and talk and do those things. You can play defense every single night if you're mentally tough. But you don't, no matter how good you are offensively, there's going to be nights when you just don't shoot it well, especially on the road, and especially with freshman guards. And so that's the scary part about this team. There's going to be some ups and downs. They could lose another one on the road. But I think, you look at what they did last year. Remember, they lost games on the road last year, later in the season than they did this year. They lost at St. Mary's in the middle of January about this time. They lost at San Diego in February. You remember that? And,
oh, yeah.
Or that was late January, and then they lost in February to Pepperdine. And they still found a way to win down the road and get to the tournament. So as young as this team is on the guard line, knowing that defense travels and offense doesn't, and this is a team that really relies on offense, yeah, they're probably going to lose another game on the road someplace. I still think they're going to win a regular season championship, and I still think they're going to win the tournament. So we just can't get in a panic because they lose once in a while on the road.
Yeah, and it's tough, Blaine, because BYU, we did the math yesterday, is losing 2.8, essentially 3, non-Gonzaga St. Mary's games in the West Coast Conference per year. That's not a formula for competing for a regular season championship, yet BYU has made back-to-back late season runs to get into the NCAA tournament. Do you expect the same from BYU this year with 7 of 10 at home down the back 10?
I absolutely expect it, and here's why. Because this is the youngest they've been on the guard line that I can remember. And so those guys are just going to get better. They're going to get more weathered and experienced at playing on the road. They're going to be a little more consistent. I'm talking specifically with Celius and Emery. Right now, their numbers at home versus on the road is a ridiculous difference. That difference is going to shrink as time goes on. They're going to get into the last part of the season, and they're going to play really well. And think about BYU's home schedule is really favorable at the end of the year. So I do believe they're going to go on a run. And here's where I think they're ahead of last year. They've already played St. Mary's and Gonzaga on the road, and they're 1-1.
Yes.
And so they're ahead of last year. And now they're going to get those teams at home. It's very likely that they sweep those teams at home. Maybe they lose to the Zags who have revenge on their mind. But to me, worst case scenario, they finish 2-2 against those teams. And I think they got a great chance to be 3-1 against those two teams. And so to me, this 4-2, because the way the season lays out from the schedule, is better than last year's 4-2 start. And so that's a long answer to your question, Jaron, but yes, I do expect them to go on a run down the stretch, and I do expect them to finish a little better this year in conference than they did last.
So as we look through a little bit of the filter there, Blaine, are you saying BYU will go undefeated at home, including wins over Gonzaga and St. Mary's?
I'd say their worst-case scenario is one loss to Gonzaga at home. That's my feeling based on how this team is built and the way they shoot it at home. And so worst case scenario, Gonzaga comes in and plays out of their minds because they're mad about what happened, and they lose that one. But I put that game at a 50-50, and then I think they win the rest at home.
How does BYU get better defensively to where they can play more like Thursday than Saturday?
It really is about experience. And so I was doing a San Diego State game a couple of weeks ago and talking to Steve Fisher. I have just so much respect for him. And you know what? He's so cool. Every time I'm down there, he's always asking, how's Dave Rose doing? How's BYU? He's got this tremendous respect for BYU as a program.
He wouldn't cancel a series with BYU. He really wouldn't.
No, he would not do that. In fact, I shouldn't even say this, but that was happening right when I was down doing the San Diego State game for ESPN, and he proactively said, what is going on with that? and I said, well, I filled him in a little bit, and he goes, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They need to play that game.
Steve Fisher's my homeboy.
A veteran coach. Yeah, but anyway, I shouldn't even say that, but we did have that.
Don't worry, it's just us three. It's just us three.
He's got a lot of respect for BYU in the program, and Dave Rose's wife and Steve's wife work on some charity things together, and I miss that rivalry from the Mountain West. That's the one I miss the most, is that San Diego State rivalry. But anyhow, Steve Fisher said they're playing a team that likes to get up and down the floor, and he goes, we've got an interesting challenge. It's really, really hard to play up-tempo on offense and then try to slow a team down defensively. He says it's just hard because the guys get running up and down the floor. Then you want them to stop the ball defensively. And so you kind of, unless you've got a veteran team, it's hard to do both. So it's hard to run up and down the floor and then slow down the team on the defensive end. And he has a young team this year. Dave Rose has a young team this year. So it kind of is what it is. And what's going to help them get better to be able to do that, to play up-tempo on offense and then slow things down defensively and play better defense, is all about experience. So I expect them to gradually get better as the season progresses defensively. And, yeah, there's been some growing pains along the way. They lose a game at Portland they shouldn't lose, but we've got to remember how young this team is.
Stay level-headed. I like that logic, Blaine. Let's ride the tournament train together, my friend.
You got it. They're going to do this thing. This is the year.
Hey, by the way, Blaine, zero beep interview.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, whenever we have a zero beep interview, BYU's teams do phenomenally well that week following it. So let's get off the phone quick before it beeps.
Okay, Blaine, thanks for the time. Bye.
See you guys.